Let me pause. Okay. All right, call this meeting to order. Do we have both Alex and Matt online and Kate?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, awesome. So we have a quorum? Go. All right, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
I was just gonna give a heads up. I have to drop at 7 p.m. Just so
Right.
folks know.
Yes. Okay. Where was that? Sorry. We had a checklist of things that we needed to discuss beyond this. Where did that go? We'll just discuss feedback on public hearing draft of bylaws. I thought we had like bullet points.
Raise hand. I need a raised hand.
Was that on the other?
Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, so before you do anything, I'm Lisa Lala, the village chair. I'd like
Yes,
to
hi.
I'd like to speak to your group and then leave you to your business.
Okay, yep, we can go to public comment. Yes.
Just
Sure.
for me, it's, yeah, and.
Yeah.
All right, so first of all, I would like to thank all of you for your very hard work. I've been watching the videos, reading the zoning and great sleeping material, but you know, you've done a great job and I really appreciate it. But here's the but. We are 7 months behind our town zoning laws or regulations, which puts us 7 months behind our town plan, which puts us 7 months behind the town zoning regulations as well. So I know it's not going to be perfect, and I know that we have plenty of time for public comment, and I can't force you to do anything. But I'm asking you to please sign off at the end of this meeting with what you have, knowing there's still plenty of time for comment, plenty of time from the planning commission. We're planning on doing 2 public hearings. We're planning on having presentations at our next meeting, but we're getting close and closer. And what we're doing is slowing down a whole bunch of stuff that really needs to get done. So I'm going to get off after this. I don't want to put any pressure on you. If you have any questions for me before I go, I'm just asking you, if you think this is ready to go, please let it go. So we can, because we have a lot of business to do with this, the business of the residents, and we have to move forward on this. So does anyone have a comment to me?
Not to her, but
I don't know who that is.
Well, yeah. Thank you for coming and speaking. It would have been nice to have known all that before 7 months. Like to know that we had any sort of deadline or timeline and to know all of this. So I would certainly like to move this forward as quickly as possible, and would certainly encourage more continual communication along the entire process. That would have been helpful. Thanks.
Okay. The gentleman in the audience had a comment.
I don't have a comment. I just want to say my.
For public okay.
Okay.
Well,
So
I
mean,
think
and can I interject for 1 minute? My understanding was you did know this. So if that
No.
is an incorrect statement, I apologize. But I also have
very
only
much
been
correct.
Yeah, okay, but I
we're
also
not 7 months behind.
Okay, so hold on a sec. I also know that I've only been the chair since April. So,
Mhm.
you know, I'm working behind the 8 ball, but I do know, and it's really important, we've got to get this moving because we are already on an extension with the town plan and we have to move forward. So if you can do it in a month, that would be appreciated if you could do it now, but 3 months is not going to work, in my view, because we have to get going on this. We have a lot of other things that have to happen. And this village zoning, we still have plenty of time to move forward. We have plenty of time for public comment, including the planning commission. But we're on, Emily, I'm going to ask you a question. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, so did you have to file for an extension on the town plan?
I did not.
When's it due?
I believe it's May of 27, is that right?
I think so, yeah. I can open up the contract.
The municipal grant is due, is over May of 27. And extensions are available for that if needed.
And
I,
there were deadlines and there were anticipated start dates, but we have not had to file an extension yet.
okay, I'm just asking, we have a lot of work to do on this and we need to move it forward. And while I appreciate everything you've done, and I have, and I do, I just am asking you to, I don't know, step a little up, do 2 meetings in a month, do what you can to help us out so that we can get on doing what we need to do, because we're going to need several months to do it as well. So that's all I'm asking, because we also have to bring it to the public and we have a lot of other things to do. So that's all I'm asking here. And I'm hoping you're hearing me in the spirit that this is intended. But it's would be really helpful if we can move this forward.
Okay,
All right. I'm going to go off now. So you can talk about me behind my back. See you later.
all right. I'm going to back up to the, in the agenda, and then we will come back down to public comments, okay? So that was a slight adjustment to the agenda. Are we ready to approve minutes from last week? Are there any changes that need to be made to those minutes, or not last week, last month when we last met? Any changes? All right, so I move to approve the minutes. Do we get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes pass. Now we go to public comment. You, sir. If you could please come to the desk and state your name clearly so it can be picked up on the microphone.
Thank you, John King. I
Mhm.
currently live 20 Lincoln Street temporarily.
Mhm.
I moved to Woodstock, Vermont in 1998 for a job. I ran a family business, Vermont's oldest family-owned business out of Rutland, Vermont for 21 years. And from 1998 till now, I've done 12 projects, and 2 in South Woodstock and the rest here in the village. I apologize. I want to thank you all for your work. What you're doing is really important. I often say, if we don't change, we're old, and we're not changing. So I haven't been able to attend the meetings here because I've been building here in the village. But I looked at the minutes in the past, and your last meeting, you discussed about height changes from 40 to 35 feet. And some of the feedback was many of you didn't understand why the importance of height is important and how it's relevant to affordable housing. But back to what I've done 12 projects. I built 4 accessory dwelling units before it was popular. I did that because, and these were side gigs. I ran a business and then I was building on the side, I had 2 kids. The reason I had accessory dwelling units was to pay the taxes. And when I sold these properties, they were usually to second homes. And all 4 of those accessory dwelling units were immediately taken off. And basically is the income inequality and the wealth gap is they don't need to rent it. So when I rented those 4 accessory dwelling units, they were my friends. Some bought places, some were just temporary. So I've been doing it for a while. I've currently built in the process of my 7th unit here in the village. So I really understand the importance of building housing. And all these meetings, I think there's only one meeting, actually, there was a conversation about how many homes does Woodstock need? how many homes do we need to pay for the sewer, the water, especially the school? Studies are very clear. When you build a new school, people will come. I lived in Bedford, New Hampshire, and we left when they approved the school. We didn't see it, but statistically, it's extremely valuable that when there's a new school built, people will come, young families will come. But part of the equation, no one ever talked about how many homes we need. What do those homes look like? Are they apartments? Are they townhomes? And for me, I've been doing this for a long time as a side gig, but it's been in my family for a long time. Building capes, ranches, townhomes, apartments. And the future, 60 to 70% of future homes will be townhomes. Because you think about, and we're building a lot of apartments. You can see right now in Burlington. Burlington right now, rents are going down because there's been a flood of new apartments. In 7 to 8 years, nationally, there'll be too many apartments. Townhomes are going to be very important for workforce, for second homes, because you're able to put a lot more homes in a little bit of space. So it's important to know that. My project on Lincoln Street, it duplicates the 2 duplexes I built, but I just improved them for livability. I have a flat roof on my last project. The height is the same height of a 35-foot house. When you look at a 35-foot minimum, it's in the center of the roof line. So for example, if you build a 2.5-story house, which is 35 feet, the peak is 40 feet. So it just looks different. That's, that's what's really relevant. So my observation with the notes is 40 feet is really, really critical for building more homes. The only exception I would recommend that there not be a 40-foot would be in the historic section. And today, a lot of people bring up the importance of historic features. And that's really valuable in terms of the actual building is what they're talking about, the physical building. Like today's society, those people that talk about the historical building, they negate to talk about the culture. What was Woodstock like? At the last meeting, there was a conversation about High Street, how it's urban. Well, you got to do the history. It was all about walkability. All they had is horse and wagons. Today's zoning laws, which are 50 years old, is we couldn't build that today. And even though we have the technology to provide safety, we don't want to do that. So I think for those that really promote the historical aspect, they need to really look at the whole picture culturally of what Woodstock looked like. It was a very diverse community. The real estate wasn't worth what it is today.
Right.
Just look historically, they can spend a little time and look at just the existing houses we have now. Those large historical buildings were multi-units. They converted from large houses to multi-families. That's not remembered. In fact, you look at when I did my Lincoln Street project, 50% of all the homes on the green were multi-units. Because of the increase in income inequality and the wealth gap, most of those multi-units are converted to single-family homes, and they remain empty most of the time. So my ask is, don't rush it. If you rush something that is really not, really answer the question: how many homes does Woodstock want? What does it look like? And I had biases. My bias is I'm pro-housing, and I've spent my money, my time, and I've done it, and I know what needs to be built. So that's my bias. The other bias I have is, and I'll tell this to my clients, I'm one of the few people that actually lived in the community that I built. So think about that. I was able to build it. I sold the units. I lived in it. And what I found is the number one discrimination in Woodstock is income inequality and the wealth gap. Now, I'm not holding that against my clients. I just witness it. And what that is someone buys a $2 million house and they can redo it. And then they're there 3 or 4 times a year. That's good. That's the America dream. That's what's important. But the challenge I have seeing that is the people, what's that, 1 minute? The people that actually do the work, you know, cutting lawns, setting up the house, painting, they can't live here. So that's basically my discrimination, my bias. You know what I mean? So basically that's my points here.
I really appreciate you coming in and speaking with us today. Yeah, thanks.
There's a hand online from Elisa.
Okay. All right. Elisa?
Hi, I'm Elisa Tarlow. I live in the village. I just a quick response to what was just said. I think the one little key that's really important is yes, we have to maintain our historic district. And I think it's important to know that like historically, yeah, like things were built differently, although my daughter wishes we just had horses in the village still. It's different today, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't keep the character. And this is like a museum here, and it's a special place. So we need to keep just that little historic center special. But anyways, what I wanted to actually say is I missed the last meeting because I had a conflict, and I listened to it, and I have some comments in response to that meeting, which I'll just read, and it won't take too long. Okay, so there was a discussion at the last meeting about who does the Planning Commission work for? And it appeared that at least some of the members of the board were not clear about who they worked for, because there were many answers. One of the answers given was that you guys work for future Woodstock residents, which is not at all true. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's clear about who they work for. You guys are appointed by the select board and the village trustees, and they are elected by the current voting residents. So people like me, people like the gentleman who just spoke, all the people that come and talk to you that are local residents, we are who you are ultimately working for. Another comment I wanted to make is on building height. So I believe that many of you are not taking the height limits seriously and giving this the time and effort needed to make an educated decision. I think that first of all, as far as I'm aware, no one has analyzed the existing heights. No one knows exactly what currently exist in our town. I mean, or at least you guys don't seem to know when I've asked. I think we need a diagram showing all the heights and views of the heights from different perspectives. We need to truly understand the current situation. And in order to determine what the heights should be in each zone. And in addition, since we're required by the state to allow an extra 10 feet in cases of affordable housing, in any places where affordable housing may come in, we need to consider lowering whatever height limit we want to be the max to be 10 feet lower so we don't exceed the level that we think is appropriate for the town, for the character and the look and the structure of the layout of the town. In addition, you very quickly voted through many different zones and what the heights should be. I heard some of you saying things like, there's no reason to change the height because this building is the only thing in this zone and it's not going anywhere. And I just feel like that's not at all thoughtful reasoning. If a building burns down, the height limit will matter because the limit will be on the land, not on the building anymore. And I think that any unexpected thing can happen. And we need to really think about the height limits that we want and not just quickly rush through and making a decision on all these different zones and what the heights should be, because it's complicated and it really deserves time and effort. The third point I want to make is regarding joining Act 181 Tier 1B. There was a discussion about that. To say joining is not an issue because it only eliminates Act 250 for units less than 50, I think is just ridiculous, because I think that's exactly why this matters. This is the area of development that we would see most in our town. And to say that we don't understand what happens if we join Tier 1B is just not true. We understand, and many of us don't want our town to join. So joining removes much needed protections from our precious historic district, and we really need to reconsider this line of action. I've seen many people speak up against this. And last, as you are trying to speed up development and approvals, I would like to request that you all join me and others that have said that we really need to advocate for a professionally developed design plan for our historic district. Please recognize that the only way to do this properly, to increase the speed of planning, to make fast approvals, is to have a very detailed design plan. And this requires a professional historic design firm to do. A real expert needs to make this happen. And I urge you all to tell the select board and the village trustees that while you've followed their objective and you've done absolutely your best, the fact is we need experts to create this plan. And this will cost money and it will take time, but it would be worth it because it's the only real way to protect the historic character of our town. And I've seen plans for other towns. There's one in particular in Connecticut. I will be emailing that to all of you on the board so you can just look at an idea of what I'm talking about, what a really detailed plan is, and how it will show, like how it would speed things up and accomplish your needs.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Wendy had a quick comment. John, I will allow you one quick minute, and then we will move on because Matt has to leave in half an hour. Wendy, can you keep it really quick? We need to get this moving.
Okay, so what I want to do is I have, just so you know, if we get into, I have comments in the areas that we may be reviewed tonight. That's separate than what I want to say right now.
Okay.
I want to go to the overview position, and perhaps it could shed light on trustee lawyers' sense of urgency, which I'm not necessarily supporting, but I want to give you some background. I actually sent a trustee lawyer 2 links to 2 video recordings of village trustee meetings. And Harry, you may be a really important resource on my points here. Well, the first meeting was in March, and your supervisor presented on Zoom the whole Tier 1B concept to the trustees. Seaton was the chair. And the discussion was, there were questions, I was present, the discussion was, we will need a very hearty public hearing in order to understand this better and vote. And then I think it's in May, I'm not sure the next date, or April, the following 2 meetings, no, it was May, sorry, but Seaton's no longer chair. And it's on the agenda, and Eric explains that T-Rock, do I say it right? T-Rock?
Two Rivers,
Two Rivers is better. Two Rivers needs to know. Two Rivers needs to know your position. Are you in or out with Tier 1B?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Is the planning commission at all responsible for determining if we're Tier 1B or not?
You need to have subdivision standards.
I understand we're putting in the things to
So
allow.
we're putting
makes
in
it
the things
allowable.
that would allow it
Right.
to, if we chose
But
to.
we're
move.
not actually
But we
determining.
are not.
So like,
okay.
No,
the decision was up to the trustees.
I
I appreciate the conversation, but just for sake of moving things forward, I don't want to.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like this is a situation where the village board of trustees needs to be bringing us up to date if there's.
I just am giving you information. I'm not asking for an opinion. I want
Right.
to give you the back information. So the trustees voted.
Mhm.
They voted because they said, what does the planning commission think? I'll send you the links. And the answer was they are pro-housing. They voted yes. They were told nothing set in stone, not in this meeting, but in
Right.
general, until the regs are signed off on. But the planning commission needs to get the regs in order to move forward with Tier 1B status. Now, fast forward, the public hearings at Two Rivers start in July, and the one in Woodstock's on July 23rd.
Mhm.
And on the map, Woodstock is, yes, we're Tier 1B. and I'm asking, is this a done deal? So I'm not saying we have say, but we have to understand that Two Rivers has vested interest in moving their assignment forward, correct?
Yes.
On a timeline.
Mhm. Well, and then
And
village
this
trustees,
fits in, and
Right.
I'm not saying who's right or wrong. I'm telling you the context here.
right,
Of the
Yeah,
situation.
I can appreciate that. I think the thing that we're doing is everything that we're adding to the zoning to make us eligible for tier 1B are things that are good for us regardless if we're in tier 1B or not. And they add protections that are in place at the state level. So people who get tier 1B status, it's not as if they don't have to follow subdivision regulations. They're just following them on a town bylaw basis, not on an Act 250 basis.
Right, it's
So
taking
we're
out
not-
the second layer.
Yeah,
I understand that,
okay.
and that isn't your decision.
Yeah.
I just want you to know that I'm wondering and proposing that the urgency
Mhm.
has to do with this.
Mhm.
And Two Rivers timeline and Woodstock's position on where are we at? And are we too far gone? We don't know. That wasn't on you. I'm just saying, I have been asking that question directly to the trustees. So,
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to share with you guys.
Okay.
And I will send you the recordings because I have it to the minute.
I'm sure you do.
I think for our sake, clarification, to make us eligible for tier 1B, the biggest thing that we did is Harry added in the subdivision bylaws.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I don't know if there was much else that really we needed to check the box, but that was like the big thing. And we got feedback from the Development Review Board that was a great movement forward.
Mhm.
Many other towns have subdivision regulations that
Yeah,
robustness.
yeah,
So it was a good
fantastic.
thing to add regardless. So
Yeah.
anything that I've heard
Right.
that people have brought comment on in the last several meetings, nothing has been about the things we added for tier 1B.
Except for the part about height, because tier 1B's rules require sewer and water. And so you're gonna have the village, that's a lot of pressure on the village, which is also a lot of pressure on the historic district. That's why this height thing really has to be contextually really thought through. Again, but I'm done.
1 minute.
All right,
Oh.
you can keep it in 1 minute, John?
Yeah, I can.
All right, I
Three
appreciate
things.
that.
Height.
Height.
Height, as I mentioned, in the historic district, not doing the 40 feet. Everywhere else should be 40 feet. If you do not do that, all your efforts that you're doing, it will not pencil out. So think about all the work that you're doing. Okay, that's called penciling out. 2, the historic district, the numbers are outstanding. The Woodstock Village is beautiful. It's not going to change. That is a buzzword for income inequality and wealth gap. For those that are saying that, look at their home, look how many people living in it. It's income inequality and wealth gap. That's what it is. It's a buzzword. Those are the 2 things. And again, the height. We have, Route 4 is a highway. It is a highway. It stops in the beginning and the end. We need more housing. So the question is, what they're not asking is how are we going to get housing? They just are asking not to have housing. Simple.
That's not true. Just.
That's not
Wendy,
true.
you gotta stay on your.
I'm late.
I have comments on height, but we can go there whenever.
Well, and I think if we do we have any other public comments without devolving into full-on debate? All right, so moving on to discussing the feedback, and would you want to present
I
your
would be happy to. You guys
findings?
have it
um,
available. So I missed the last meeting as well, read the notes, watched the video. I just want to kind of put in context, our previous regulations had every zoning height at 40 feet except for 2 districts, community and inn. And made the comment that it made sense to raise those to 40 because every other district was 40. There was no reason that community or in district should be less than everything else. So if the previous planning commission set 40 as a set height, my recommendation was everything should be 40 feet. That kind of triggered a conversation last week about lowering heights. There was public comment about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. Eliza, I agree. I believe many of those comments were based on things that, didn't have a perspective. I also agree. I think everything should be at 40 feet. I've talked to architects and 3 stories. It's absolutely critical that something is 3 stories in order to be affordable. What 40 feet does versus 35 feet is it allows for more architectural diversity. So it allows for heights of buildings that would have to be 30 feet or have to have a flat roof in order to comply versus a peak roof. So it really allows for more diversity in your architectural palette. And it's more about design aesthetic versus height. Because if you actually look at the heights around the village, I went around with a laser measuring point and measure the heights. Laser measuring points aren't as accurate as a tape measure strapped to the building going up, but it's pretty close. That we're in the realm of possibility of what these heights are, if not exact. And so what you find is there's a huge variety of heights in the village, and that's actually what makes it exciting. There's one image on here that shows Town Hall. Town Hall is, again, you measure, as John explained, if it's a peaked roof, you measure to the midpoint of the peaked roof. So the front of Town Hall, the peak height is 48 feet, but that midpoint's 44 feet. The peak and back, I couldn't even get a point on that. That's probably even another at least 6-10 feet higher. And then right next to it, you have a house that's zoned for 23 feet. Across the street is a 1-story cape, and I can't even read it because there's a tree in the way, but I would be surprised if it was more than 15 feet. So there's a huge variety of heights, and it's not the height, the max height, it's really that architectural variation that makes it rich. The historic district has many buildings that are at 40 feet height. You go to the downtown pictures, the peak height of the tallest flat buildings, Bill Bentley's building, the ones across the way, they're roughly 39, 40 feet tall. A peaked roof like the, is it 1 the Green or 4 the Green? I forget, one on the corner. That peaked roof is only 28 feet because they were measuring to the mid height. There were comments last time about different zones, as if going to a lesser dense zone we should have lower heights. And I think the exact opposite is true, because that's where our actual available land to build is. And so, and as well as you get farther spread out, bigger buildings look smaller. Think of barns in residential districts. Those are exempt from height restrictions because they're agricultural. Silos are exempt. Go to another picture, just so I can point out different things. 40 feet next to a 30 feet. Again, I can't think of a single building where I look and be like, oh my gosh, that's the wrong height, or that's a different height, or that's too tall. You go to the barn, the Sunset Farm building, from the backside is gigantic. It doesn't feel out of scale. It's spread out. It's not affecting. It's more about those architectural features that make it feel historic. And getting that extra 5 feet allows you that architectural variation. I think there's one other photo. The mansion, for example, gigantic building. The peak is at 51, a zoning height would be 44. If this was an apartment building, it'd be fantastic, but it's even above what we're thinking at for 40 feet. The new Mellish Woods is really pretty much right at 35. People don't build higher affordable housing unless it makes financial sense or architectural sense. So they're really trying to squeeze as much as they can out of that height. So if they built to 35 feet, if they would have built to 40 feet and had a peaked roof, it probably would have been a much nicer structure. And I remember seeing notes about this, that they actually changed their recommendation on kind of made it kind of a false mansard roof on the front to make it seem more of scale. So to me, it's much more about those architectural details and the roof lines that makes it important. It's not the height. The height variations all over the place. And again, it's that diversity that makes it great. And again, I've talked to architects and builders, and 3 feet, you have to have 3 feet or 3 stories for multifamily housing to make it affordable. And that extra 5 feet just allows you that more architectural variation. So I don't think we should change any zoning to be less than 35. I don't think we should go back. And I think it makes sense when you're looking at the districts, community and in, they're integrated right into everything as well. They should also be 40. We look at the historic district, there is so little opportunity for development in the historic district. It has to be a vacant site. There's very few vacant sites that are out there to build on. And again, it's more about those design features. So we should make it possible that people can build. It's not that every single spot that's vacant is all of a sudden going to get 40 feet, but it allows for that variation and that possibility of housing. And since that's our main directive in this is to promote housing, I think it would be bad if we regressed in that and lower the height in any zone. So that's my comments on heights.
I really appreciate you doing that study. Yes.
One comment I have from the last meeting when we talked about this subject was we spent some time, Ben, talking about the Mellishwood project, and my understanding was that was 39 or 40, and it was in the context of that as that project comes together, where it was certainly a flashpoint around the 40-foot height. So it looked like you'd measured 35.
At 35, and again, it based on that was the front elevation, and in the back this land slopes, so you'd measure it, probably somewhere in the midpoint. So that's part of our regulations. Like if it's a sloping site, you're measuring it at a midpoint, and I know it kind of drops off. The building's not done too, so and again, like it's a laser measure point, so you're pointing up and hitting the top point. So there's some error. I'm not dying on those numbers, but
we just got a little bit of the backstory behind that from the VDAC chair, and also there's also discussion of changing the roof to mansard to accommodate additional units within and I think also getting a height waiver from 35 to accommodate the third story.
And if you look at that building, there's no wasted space. Like it's not, those aren't giant floors. It doesn't look, in that case, I would say more height would be better to allow for more features.
Yeah, possibly higher.
I think there's a real range in perspective on that project in particular.
Yeah.
But also, if anything, that would mean your measurements were coming in a little short. Yeah. So we need to like keep going because of that. And we're not going to take more public comments right now. Because we need to keep it moving. Among the board members, did we want to have, or commission members, whatever the heck we are, do we want to have any other comments about or discussion about the height? I think the recommendation, especially based on, surveyed and evidence, would be to keep the 40 feet where it existed from previous editions of the bylaws, and then just change those two that were different to be consistent, right?
And just
what we had discussed earlier.
And just for my benefit, what was originally 40, and when was it changed to 40? Because I thought that was done like 4 years ago. Based on the conversation last meeting, because I noticed that we changed back residential low and medium density, but not high density or RO.
I think the argument we used was the Route 4 corridor should be 40 feet, right? Because that's sort of the main highway that runs through town, and residential low density and medium density generally doesn't intersect with the Route 4 corridor. I think you could change those back to 40, but to me, the critical thing was getting the Route 4 corridor at 40 feet.
Yeah, to answer your question, Alex, everything was 40 except for in and community as of 2023.
Right.
What was it before that? I don't know, but at least, yeah.
I think it was changed to 40 from 35, like right before that, like in that revision.
Yeah, Alex, that happened about 3 years ago.
That was before the version that we inherited had 40 for everything except in and community.
Right.
And so what we're proposing is to not lower anything.
Yeah, but Alex, I think the point is not to relitigate the change and go where it is.
Right. Like we're not going to lower anything. We're going to keep it where it already was and just bring the two outliers into alignment.
Okay, I don't think that is like fully captures the conversation from the last meeting.
It's not about the conversation, Alex. It's about the outcome. The outcome is we're not changing it.
I think some people on this board want to change it, and
Well, should we vote on it?
Let's vote on it.
Do you want to go district by
Well-
district, or do you want to just talk about whether to reverse the changes from last draft?
I would vote to reverse the changes from last draft and bring all districts into alignment with the 2023 like majority.
Okay, what is everyone else's vote? Sorry.
I would do the same. I'd go back to 40 and make everything 40.
I'd do the same.
Not Alex?
Okay.
And Kate?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it would be useful to look at the districts relative to the town plan, the zoning plan itself. But I'm okay with keeping things as they were and not making changes.
How do
I
you feel
think the-
about the two outlier districts just being brought into alignment with the rest of them?
Because there were the community and the inn were at 35 when we
Right.
took over. I mean, I don't think those, I'm trying to see where the community outline is, what that zoning area is. And I think if there's not really any room for development or, increased height potential in those zones, then I wouldn't be opposed to leaving it at 35 as a compromise.
I mean, if anything, I think if, heaven forbid, this building burned down, we would have to build another town hall or other community building in the community district.
This would be considered a legal non-conforming structure within the community district.
Yeah.
There also is the discussion that we've had in the past that both those districts are kind of spot zoning. And so looking forward to where
Yeah,
we're
right.
getting rid of those districts,
Yeah.
that's also a reason to move it to 40 because, at some point they're going to be a part of another district. That's the talk. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but
Yeah.
that's part of the discussion is getting rid of those districts. So I think making everything the same is just preemptively moving towards that goal.
Right.
Mhm.
Of fewer types of districts ultimately, and a little more kind of planning focused districting rather than reactionary.
Right,
Yeah.
when we get into the town plan, I don't think either of us would recommend
Right.
having community or in.
So
as
that'll
districts.
kind of become
Okay.
a moot point. Okay, Matt and Alex. We still need to
Yeah,
vote.
I would converge everything to 40. I would converge everything to 40.
I don't agree.
So
No,
4 out
it's-
of 5, change them back to 40. And are we leaving in at 35 or 40?
40.
Okay. Noted.
Thank you. Okay, other particular areas that we still feel are outstanding? Did you want to propose your?
Yeah, I had one thing I brought up a couple months ago, but there was what I believe to be an omission in the last rewrites. So in 2023, when the rewrites happened for the village, they omitted a section and it was called an in annex, and it's in our town regulations. And last year, an inn came and asked us to undertake potentially changing those regulations to allow for new buildings. And at that point, noticed that the 2023 rewrites removed those from the village. But through investigation, my understanding is that was potentially a version control error. I talked to Stephanie. She has no recollection of that being a conversation. I talked to another previous board member. They had no recollection of that being an item on that they actively tried to remove in annex from the zoning regulations. And so if people agree that that should be a part of the village, it should be a pretty easy fix because the language was the same for the village and the town. It adds in a different definition of an annex, which is the use of an existing building or structure intended for guest occupancy or related activities, the use of which is subordinate to the principal use being an inn situated within the district and under the same ownership of the principal use. It adds in annex under uses requiring a conditional use permit in, and then it adds certain general requirements for what an in annex can be. Has to maintain residential character, off-street parking, can't use it at a retail restaurant and such. So again, I believe this was an error and would recommend that we just add that back in for the trustees to add in with everything else they're putting in.
I second that.
Sorry, can you repeat? This was, you're saying this was deleted in the 2023 revision?
Yeah.
But it remains in the town, but it got deleted in the 2023 revisions of the village.
And I've seen previous versions of our village zoning and it had that at the back of the zoning as an amendment. And so I'm just kind of guessing that it was a version error in pulling data and admitting that amendment that happened previously, which is 2014.
Does anyone have any objections to reinserting the village, or sorry, the in annex? It's not like definition or
Yeah, definition.
definition.
Yeah.
Okay. So we recommend that be reinserted.
There's no existing, like, if we look at the village map, there's no existing zone for that. That's right?
So
This is a category for something that does not exist within the village.
This is a use, correct?
This is just a
not the
use of a
use.
building. Yeah.
Use. So anywhere there's an in district, that use could exist.
It's a use accessory to an inn, I guess you.
Yeah.
Right. So like buildings not attached to the inn, but owned by the inn on inn property can be used by the inn
For guests.
for guests.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, I've definitely seen places where like there's the main hotel and then you could rent the house because you have a whole family or something. And that's pretty standard, I
Yeah.
feel. Yeah.
The Shire has that.
They're not actually in the in district though, right? The Shire.
Shire's in district, I think.
Is it?
I think it's in commercial industrial. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's not in the in district, but yeah. Blue Horse was, but you know, that's not an active inn anymore,
Still in district though, yeah.
but it's still in district. Okay. Do we have any other pressing items that the commission would like to reevaluate before we vote to move this forward to the village Board of Trustees?
I have one more. I do want to revisit something we talked about a couple months ago, which was it all relates to VDAC and the potential for mandating design expertise on the VDRB. And I'd like to revisit this because I mean I'm certainly not aware of any like progress, I guess, on having a functioning VDAC. And I'm probably not going to be comfortable advancing this if we aren't having the conversation about design expertise in some form with voting members. Harry, I recall you saying that you didn't think that it could be written in to this isn't the proper, I don't think this is the proper document for it, but into either the charter or documents governing candidates for and those sitting on that board. But this is going to be I think is an important topic. There needs to be I think there does need to be voting design expertise somewhere in the chain.
I think we've always stated, like, for a while, we had some language about having a preference for people with a design background. But there was like discussion that you can't mandate it because also like that you can barely get enough volunteers for it in the first place.
Right. And the preference, the language about a preference would only come into play if there were multiple
people to choose from, right? If you're choosing
which is rare.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just reiterate, I don't know that the membership requirements or suggestions that, I mean, the bylaw really doesn't typically deal with appointing people to committees. It just says what those committees do. So I think the trustees could create, I don't know what form that would take, but some kind of policy about committee appointments.
I mean, maybe like in our, presentation to the Board of Trustees, we could recommend to them that they can put it in their language that design background or design or building trades background is preferred. Quite honestly, I don't know many people who are not involved in design who would want to be on that board, but usually people who, are interested in buildings want to do it. But I don't think that is in the bylaws.
I also think it's, the trustees are essentially interviewing these candidates and they're the ones who vote to put them in. So I think that's the appropriate time to have that discussion, whether that candidate is appropriate or not. And so those are public meetings. People can comment on the people applying. They can support them. They can not support them. Public members can give their opinion to the trustees of why they think that person should be on the board or not on the board. And I think since there's that mechanism to have that conversation and make that case to the trustees during that, essentially interview process, I feel like that should be enough of a venue for that to come out.
Yeah. I mean, and also I think we end up with similar thing for members of the Planning Commission that we prefer people, that members are preferred from design backgrounds, planning backgrounds, building. And I believe it states that on the website, or at least in the, when they post open positions.
Or it would be in the rules of procedure.
Right, which is why I'd like to be stronger and, for there to be a suggestion that, a minimum of X seats on that body have, professional, deemed professional experience.
Sure, but maybe identified elsewhere.
Right. But I think that's just not, the bylaws aren't the place where that happens. And I think that that's what was coming.
I understand. I mean, maybe we're attaching a comment to this in that section. But I just, without that, in my opinion, without that requirement, that board composition, something I think stronger than a preference, advancing this set of revised bylaws is certainly a step to remove a level of review that I think many in the village has assumed been voting and binding for a while, right? So I agree that the bylaws is not where this would be added, but I think we should be adding a comment to that section, recommending that the trustees add a VDRB board composition requirement.
Sure. I mean, if you can comment, the comments are going to be stripped off of this before we transmit to the trustees, but we can definitely provide a cover letter that maybe includes that, or Sarah or whoever, or myself or whoever else appears at the trustees to talk about the draft can mention that was something that we heard and that we would like them to consider.
You could even pass a motion right now to make that a recommendation to the trustees.
Yeah. I'm happy with that. So should we move to include a recommendation that the VDOT, or Village Design Advisory Committee, that the Board of Trustees have what would be a stronger than preference?
No, I think it's either that there is a formed and functioning VDAC that is meeting and making recommendations to the Development Review Board, that has a say and has that has a real say in matters, or that in the absence of that, a minimum of say 2 seats on the Development Review Board are filled by design professionals.
I just want to challenge this. What if they are unable to staff that? Do we stop development?
That's precisely the problem.
Well, then.
So I'm opposed. I'm happy to pass on a recommendation, but practically I don't want to be in a position where folks can't build stuff.
Right. And I think that's precisely the issue, is like Ben was saying.
But imagine what could be built without.
If there is only 1 seat and 2 people are applying for it, then certainly someone with a design background should be preferred over nothing, or some other a finance background or something. But if we have 3 open seats and 1 applicant, well, isn't that 1 applicant, even if they are coming from finance or education or something else, isn't that better than nobody?
Well, then perhaps if there is,
because they're showing interest and they want to show up.
Well, so in the case where a minimum number of seats on that board cannot be filled, maybe there's therefore the requirement for that body and the trustees to have a firm on retainer that reviews.
But who's going to pay for it, Alex?
Yeah, and that's just raising the cost of any construction, because the cost of that would get passed on to the permits.
Right, but we're advancing revised bylaws,
which is the opposite of what we're going for.
that strip away safeguards that have.
Just to interrupt, can I motion to vote on the bylaws and advancing it, because I have to drop, and this will be our chance to do it tonight.
Second. So as it was stated earlier, just because we are moving this on to the Board of Trustees does not mean that conversation or discussion about these ends. It will continue on Board of Trustees hearings. It just means that we are moving our work over to them for a review. Matt has moved, I have seconded. All in favor of moving this to the village trustees, say aye.
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 Bye.
Any opposed?
I'm abstaining because I feel like something I feel like important has just been cast aside. I support moving this forward contingent on my concerns being raised in the context of the draft.
Yes. And I believe that when we send it over, we send it with like a cover letter, right, Harry?
We certainly can.
Yeah.
Not necessarily required.
And we can include that in both the cover letter and also in comments when we attend when the trustees are reviewing it and open for public comment. So that will certainly be included, Alex.
You're also, all of the commissioners are obviously welcome to attend the trustee hearing and voice all these concerns, or even before they go to the hearing, if it's discussed in a regular meeting.
Correct.
You can come give public comment and add your voice to that. But we can certainly pass on that suggestion to them. I'm sure probably myself, and if not, Sarah also will go in front of the trustees at some point in the near future to talk about this and
I'm planning
kind
on
of
it, yeah.
prep them for it. And we can include that in our discussion.
Agreed. Yes. So the movement passes. We will be sending this over to the Board of Trustees. Is that 18 or is that a year and a
Fireworks?
half? That was
Is that what you
18
want?
months. I feel like we need some sort of.
I need-
like-
Confetti.
Thanks, Royce. I need to drop.
cannons.
November, December 2024.
Yeah, so, that was about double what we were
November.
hoping. So hopefully we'll get faster at this as we move on. Okay. Thank you so much for sticking around, Matt. I don't know if he's even still here, but, I appreciate it. What's that?
About our next steps.
Yes,
Please.
and I may have them too.
Well, I won't interrupt you. You're on a roll, but yeah, just curious, with us passing this, that, we're pretty much done with it unless we wanted to go, like you said, to the meeting.
Mhm.
Does that go back to Lisa's comments at the beginning? Does that basically give us the go ahead to start working on the town plan?
Yes.
Brian, go,
Okay.
full speed, is that?
Well,
Yeah,
you could have thrown this to the side.
Yeah,
you know,
but that's our, that's
Yeah,
our.
I think that's the next thing up is town plan. Which, planning for the future.
Do you want me to actually
Please talk.
outline quickly what happens next?
Yes,
Would
please.
that be helpful? Okay,
That
so
would be helpful.
it's transmitted to the trustees. They're gonna read it, digest it. I assume we'll talk about it before they warn the hearing. The difference between the planning commission hearing and the trustees hearing is that they have to have at least one hearing. But if they want to make substantial changes after that hearing, they have to make those changes and then go have another hearing. So you had your one hearing, which is the minimum requirement. And then we did some substantial changes. We messed around with the height and some other things based on the feedback that we heard from the hearing. And then there was no second hearing. We just had you vote on it and you advanced it. So that's different for the trustees. If they want to make substantial changes after the hearing, they'll have to go have another hearing. So we usually recommend that if the trustees have flag something that they have serious concerns about and they know is going to be a problem for them, they should draft that change in before they do their first hearing so they don't, waste time. What else?
Yep, they're required to have a hearing, then they can vote to adopt, not at the hearing,
Right.
after the hearing, at the next regular or special trustee meeting. So at that point, then they're voting to adopt it and it doesn't go into effect until 21 days after the vote to adopt it.
All right.
That's pretty much it. I mean, it's also their prerogative. Sounds like they want to move on this, but what they can also do is they don't like it and they can kick it back down to you.
Right.
I think that's pretty unlikely based on what we heard from Lisa tonight, but that's their other option. So they don't necessarily have to, they can delegate it back down to you to make further changes or say, we're not having a hearing. We don't like this at all, whatever.
They can also make whatever changes they wish at this point too, without sending it back. to
Without
the
sending it
planning
back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're basically like a formal recommendation process.
Planning Commission's an advisory committee, so.
Yeah,
you are
right,
this
right, yeah,
advisory to the
yeah,
municipal body.
yes.
I like to think of it as like a legislative committee where you're actually drafting the text that you then send off to the legislators
Yeah,
and then
okay.
they skim it and go, yes or no. This is where the sausage is made up, so.
Mhm.
But yeah, so
Great.
that's pretty much how it works.
Okay, so then looking at town plan, how do you recommend approaching that? Kind of what are the steps that will happen there and what is our goal timeline?
So,
I just leave.
Bye,
Looks
Harry.
like my work is done here. All right, Brian, it's all up to you now.
yeah, so I reviewed a lot of the town plan. There are things that in my mind, I'm like, well, we should change this about it or not. So the process is to go through it generally chapter by chapter. You may in a meeting be able to get through some of the smaller chapters or chapters where there's not a lot of things you maybe need to address. But it's important to remember the town plan is an advisory document for the most part. It's a guidance document. It informs the bylaws of your town or your village. Except in a couple of cases, and there are places you definitely want to go through very carefully. One of those being the land use chapter. And then also when it comes to energy siting policies, and for any policies concerning telecommunication towers, you want to go through those carefully because your town plan becomes a document that's included within the quasi judicial proceedings for siting energy facilities, Act 250 cases, or larger telecommunication facilities as well. So in those cases, those policies can have real impact on those development proposals as they are permitted by the state. Your bylaws don't have any effect on those three things, but your town plan does. So in those cases, you definitely want to go through those areas very carefully. Right now, there aren't really any telecommunications siting policies in the town plan. So kind of starting from scratch there. The land use chapter will take a long time to go through because the way it is right now, and this is very unfortunate, the town plan is basically a replication of the zoning map and the zoning policies, which is why Harry and you guys were not able to go through and change any of those zoning districts in the bylaws because they are mirrored exactly to what the future land use element of your town plan is. And that doesn't give you any flexibility to change one without having to change the other. So now you're going through and you'll be able to go through that chapter. And my general recommendation would be to scrap the whole chapter and start over because it is just a replication of your zoning map. So create future land use districts, which will be pretty much broader than the very exacting and very specific zoning districts that you have right now in that area. There'll be things like hamlet, village center, ag residential area. There'll be something like that, more like a more general way, and it'll provide guidance. And then you'll have the flexibility to go back to the town and village zoning districts and change those as you see fit. You could have multiple zoning districts within one future land use area. So you can have still like a handful of zoning districts in the village, even if the village is largely like one or two future land use areas. So that will be something to go through. And I did reach out to Kevin Geiger from my office, and he's interested in helping out with creating that land use element within the town plan. But of course, the town plan has a lot more elements. There's chapters on housing, economic development, flood resiliency, natural resources, utilities, facilities, and services. So going through there, a lot of the times the focus will really be on make sure that element has everything it's supposed to have under state law. Town plans are very prescriptive, and you know, you have to have all these things. You can have more than that. You have to minimum, you have to have what it says in state statute. We also want to make sure you're aligning to all the state goals for planning. Some of those are pretty small things like support value-added products from the agricultural and forestry sectors. I noticed you didn't have an obvious policy supporting that, so it's really easy just to add saying, you know, you love maple syrup. Something like that. It's pretty harmless. And in those cases too, those are just going to be purely advisory policies. We are saying something like, it'd be great to show some support for our ag sector. by valuing value added products. So it's a lot of work in a couple different areas. It's going to be a lot more intense in certain parts. Some of the chapters, it's just going to be sort of updating, making sure you have all the policies you should have under state law. And any other changes that have happened just because current events. Some of the stuff in the town plan looks like it hasn't been updated maybe in 20 years. There's references to things from like 2000s and the way the EC fiber being built out in like 2009. Like there's like 15 years of history have happened here, so we can update that part. And then other like factual things you would want to bring up. So, and of course it's, you know, open to public input along the way. So.
Right.
Are there like other parties or experts that we should be coordinating with, sort of hearing from? And because, you know, for example, like water comes to mind, right? Like one of the options, you know, contemplating the engineering reports for the aqueduct in that process, contemplate the possibility that maybe the need for an additional tank on the east side of the town, right? So like, I think as part of this, we also need to sort of chart out like who we need input from.
Yeah, there's usually the same usual suspects. I would say Conservation Commission, your town staff, especially utilities and facilities, updating that. You can reach out to the Historic Society if they have edits they want to make, especially about the history of the town and the village.
Actually, I already received those.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Pass them on to me, please. Yeah, so other groups in town that you think you want to reach out to, definitely.
Brian, where does the goals and like action items, like, how do we develop those, and like, what do they do? Like, who is that written for? Like, develop safety routes?
Question. Excellent question.
That's an excellent question.
That's an excellent question. Goals or objectives, as some towns call them, are pretty much just a statement of like the future you want to see. Some of the goals I've seen in the town plan are kind of more like actions, which are just recommendations you're asking some specific body or person to take on. And it could be like Conservation Commission should do this, Planning Commission shall do this, Select Board trustees shall do this. I always like when you're writing a recommendation to make it clear who the actor responsible for it is. And then the policies are just things that are really like implementable, but not necessarily like an action. Like, you know, you can say a policy like consider conservation in your land use regulations. It's basically an action to do it. It's also kind of a policy, so there's sometimes some gray area there. Your town plan also at parts doesn't have very clear policies. It's mostly, it goes like goals, and then there's objectives, and then there's recommendations, and sometimes those recommendations are still very broad. It's not clear who's responsible for doing it. So it's something I definitely want to recommend tightening up and make it more specific when you get to that recommendation part, so that they're very discrete actions and you know if someone's actually done them or not. Because the whole idea is, right, to mostly direct the town and village resources and staff and people to do these things if possible, especially if it's something that there's a lot of support behind.
But to go kind of 10,000 foot and not to repeat things that Brian and I have told you guys before, nothing that's in the town plan is really legally binding, with the exception of future land use and energy and telecommunications facilities, if you have mandatory language in there. Mandatory language being in this future land use area, we shall not allow principal retail. That's a binding requirement. And that means if there's an Act 250 permit proposed for a principal retail establishment in that area, the district commission will not allow it, because that's mandatory language in the town plan. So that's really important. Other things would be, like energy generation facilities. Brian's honestly much more expert in that than I am at this point. The town's preferences for where, for example, energy generation facilities can be. So if there are sensitive areas for whatever reason, for scenic reasons, for, you know, wildlife corridor reasons, whatever they might be, you can map those or describe them in your town plan and say, we do not support energy generation facilities in these areas. You have to get the enhanced energy plan designation, you have to make sure that you allow energy generation facilities in enough areas of town that you're not just prohibiting them, blanket prohibiting them, which is not legal. But if there were a facility proposed for one of those areas that you prohibit in what's called a section 248 hearing in the Public Utilities Commission, that would be considered, that would be given substantial deference. So the town plan language would carry significant weight in that proceeding and probably get it stopped. So those are a few key areas, but really everything else, as Brian is saying, like everything else is really just a reference document, a visioning document, a guiding document for the future of the town that is collectively written. That's why you do the public engagement, and it's meant to be referred back to by the select board, the trustees, the town manager, all of the other commissions and local groups to give them directive about how to approach various issues. So you can, it's really whatever you want it to be. It can be as detailed or not detailed as you want. We obviously always encourage towns to err on the side of detail, to have who, what, when, where, why in your goals. Like Brian's saying, like delegate it to a specific party. If you want to put dates and numbers that you want to hit, even better.
How long is a plan expected to be valid or like fresh? So like if you're putting forward proposal or recommendations and action items, like eventually you're going to do all of those things, or they're just going to become irrelevant, or they're the thing that never ever happens, even though everyone keeps saying it's a good idea. So like at how long is this expected to?
Plans. Okay, so when
Be
plans are adopted, they are valid for 8 years after the date of adoption.
Okay.
The date of adoption is whenever the municipal body votes to adopt it after their final hearing on it, which is after your part about really doing most of the work to revise it. They're valid immediately. So the date of adoption, it's the first day of the town plan. Then it lasts for 8 years before it has to be re-adopted or amended at that point going forward. And your town also gets some special powers from having an adopted town plan. Now you're eligible to apply for municipal planning grants, which we currently have to support the work of revising the town plan, and a couple of other grant programs as well. So it's for 8 years. The Tank town plan was adopted and re-adopted in 2023 last. So it's not that you're running up on that 8-year timeline right now. It's that right now the timeline is really directed by the municipal planning grant and wanting to be able to conclude the work of that municipal planning grant within the timeline and extension.
Yeah, it's really the grant timeline and kind of the impetus for applying for the MPG, just to refresh everyone, was about this future land use planning being identical to the zoning thing. So you should tackle it soon so you can.
So within the context of that grant, when do we need to have this completed by?
I believe
Officially by May of next year.
In May 27?
Extensions are available, but yes,
Yes.
up to a
Up
year.
to
I
a
think.
year
Yeah.
extension is available for a municipal planning grant.
But the end product, I believe, is Brian delivering you your planning commission hearing draft.
Right.
The end is not it being adopted. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
The end of Brian is.
So the
end of
planning,
Brian.
and to be clear, the planning commission hearing draft, which is not the select board and trustee hearing draft, that's different.
Anything after that, just because you being a nice guy helping us out. Do you think that's possible? May?
I think it's possible. I mean, there's about a dozen elements, which usually are chapters in a town plan. I think you have about that in the Woodstock town plan. So that'll probably take a year of meetings and revising, waiting for feedback from other groups. I mean, it could be faster if there's certain things that really don't need a lot of updating. Like generally a transportation chapter rarely needs updated, or some other smaller chapters like that usually don't require a lot of revision.
Here's something kind of goofy. Do we have paper plans? I know it's probably a lot of pages, but on the other hand,
It
I
is
just
like
find it much
140.
easier to read on paper and like write notes than like on a computer.
Paper plans, like you print it out?
Yeah. I don't have a functioning printer. I guess I could do it at work. but-
Like Molly and Emily print off a book.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'd appreciate that.
Yeah. There is like one more thing, and this is important guidance up front, is Harry mentioned enhanced energy plan. Your plan is required to have an energy element, so an energy chapter. An enhanced energy plan has all the same requirements and more. It requires you to do a lot more work inside of your town plans and energy chapter, and requires like certain policies, especially around siting your energy facilities and a couple other smaller things. Is that something the town is interested in doing? An enhanced energy plan has to be adopted with as part of a town plan. It's not a separate document, which some towns get in their minds that it's a different thing. It's a good idea to decide that kind of upfront that you're going to do it so that you can do the work along the way to do it, versus like deciding at the end and then having to go back and revise what you've done and then add a lot more extra stuff. So having more say in those energy siting procedures, is that something that you have interest in as a planning commission?
To expand on that a little bit, it's an enhanced energy plan is really, I think it's existed since about 2017 or 2018, and it's
Like that.
it's essentially a local control mechanism because energy generation facilities are just blanket exempted from local zoning across the state. It's state statute. So all energy generation facilities and stuff like that go through the State Public Utilities Commission, and local zoning really has no say in the matter. So in 2017, 2018, they kind of created this compromise, and I don't really know the full history behind it, but that towns, if they put in this extra legwork to make a beefed up energy chapter in their town plan, they would get extra legal standing in front of the Public Utilities Commission. And it's kind of squishy, to be honest. It's basically a legal standard. So previously, or if you don't have an enhanced energy plan, the town plan gets what's called, and the town's preferences gets what's called due consideration. But if you have an enhanced energy plan, you get substantial deference. So the town has kind of the right of first refusal, almost, if you want to put it that way.
And the difference really is due consideration is the PUC considers the policies relevant to this case from your town plan. They can adopt them if they see that a greater public good is served, whether or not adopted or not. If you get substantial deference, and you get that by having an enhanced energy plan as part of your town plan, they have to adopt the policies in your town plan unless they give you in writing a stated reason why a greater public good is served by not applying them.
Right.
So you get more say in these proceedings.
And it seems like historically, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like large solar arrays and that type of thing, like residential solar is obviously all over Woodstock and all over everywhere, but it seems like there have not been a lot of large generation facilities proposed in Woodstock in recent years. Maybe just because land is quite expensive here, but
There's like one kind of along for like.
oh, that's right, going into Tassers.
Across there. There's a
Yeah,
solar array down
across from there.
on that.
I mean, it's not huge, but it's larger than most around here, I think.
Yeah, and you could even, your policies could certainly be around like screening for these things.
Yeah.
That's a very.
So yeah,
common
it
one.
doesn't even just have to be, we don't want X in Y area. It can be
Just if you. put it
conditions,
there.
basically.
Right.
It can
Yeah.
be, we don't want it visible from Route 4. We want fences to be permeable to wildlife. There's all sorts of things you could do.
Yeah.
What scale does this apply to, like the solar array by Rainbow, like that level?
Yeah, that's what like.
So residential scale solar goes through a expedited PUC procedure. It doesn't go through like a full 248 hearing, it's 25 kilowatts, I think is the cutoff, right?
Yeah, so if it's net metered or not is really the
that's
first
right.
question.
Yeah.
If it's net metered, it's generally a smaller thing. It's not utility scale. So there are certain more, not de minimis, but they're just smaller projects go through a more expedited review. Larger ones, utility scale ones do go through the full review PUC. I think it's 25 is under 25, it's just a registration. If it's net metered, and then that's like 25 to 150, I think is like another tier of like.
Well, the 150 is the cap for net metering, I think.
Yeah, and then but then if it's not net metered at all, which is just going to be generally a very large project. Those will go through a full review.
Net metered is.
So net, I don't know if we're just boring everyone to tears. Literally people have left the room while we're talking about this. So yeah, we can obviously talk about this.
Okay, yeah, don't digress. Don't digress. We can do it later.
I can give you the 1,000-foot view if you want, but net metered. So net metering is most residential solar systems are net metered. So that's basically like, it's called that because it's turning back your electric.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And the utilities pay a higher rate per kilowatt hour for that than they do for like wholesale electricity from like a big power plant or like a big solar array or something like that. So for a while, the state was using that as an incentive to get more solar on the grid for many, many years. And in recent years, the kind of landscape of federal tax credits and solar in general has been, okay, we want less net metering and we want bigger, more centralized solar facilities that are grid scale. So that's kind of honestly the market for solar in Vermont is kind of like get bigger, get out right now. It's like it's leaning towards those larger, megawatt scale solar fields on former ag land or whatever, as opposed to smaller community solar is also no longer legal as of last year.
What
So
is
like
it?
community solar. So
It's
like
not legal?
group net metering. Yeah. So like,
Really?
yeah.
I mean, I love solar, but I also am afraid of like a giant solar field coming in the wrong location. So like.
There could be housing there.
Well, yeah, I mean, those are all things you want
I
to
want to build
consider.
houses.
Yeah.
Sure.
Definitely, if you have conditions you would like to see generally applied, it's a good idea to have an enhanced energy plan.
But we can leave it at that for now.
Besides doing the work, is there any negative to having an energy plan? Like,
Sounds like it's something that the village and the town would probably like to have.
Really, some downside.
Yeah, I can't think of a downside. I mean, I don't even know how much harder it is really than doing a standard energy chapter that meets all the requirements, but.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just,
Citing
it's in a different
policies.
category.
Right.
It's like you have to have extra citing policies. There's a checklist of things you have to have. And one of those is like a statement about equity considerations of the policies you propose for your
Right.
energy.
Right. Energy justice is a criteria now.
Yep. So it makes for a longer energy chapter. I don't think there's really any downside to doing it. It's just time and effort.
Do you want to talk about the process or maybe public engagement? Sorry, I don't
Yeah.
want to put the cart before the horse here, but.
Yeah, I think just understanding the map is good for us going forward and not getting bogged down into the details until we've had a chance to, well, Ben's already done his homework, but like.
I read it.
I read
That's
it.
impressive.
I read it like 2 years ago, I think. So, but I definitely need to reread it.
Yep.
I think I read it when I was applying for this, but, yeah, I think just having a roadmap so we know how to kind of pace our efforts, since we're all working people, I think all of us have kids. So, time is precious.
Yep.
It's good to know how to use it judiciously. So, yeah,
Yeah.
give us the rundown.
What I want to do is just go through all of it. I've not gone through and marked it up with edits where I would recommend them. So I would start with a red line version before the next meeting. Give it to you guys a couple of days in advance so you can look it over. We can start. The first chapter is actually, well, there's some parts about it at first. That's like a statement of principles and a scenic value statement and a couple other things like that. We can go through those. And just sort of like go through it as you want. It can be line by line. It could be section by section. If you have edits you want to propose, I'll have the edits in the red line version you can see. And as I'm going through it too, I'll try to make sure I'm adding everything that needs to be in there for statute, support for the state's planning goals, make sure you're talking about everything in the element you're supposed to be talking about. And then we'll try to just go through as many chapters as we can. If we get through 2 chapters in a meeting, that'd be great. Some chapters are more time, like land use. It's going to take a lot of energy. If you go for an enhanced energy plan, it'll take more than 1 meeting for sure. Because there'll be things you have to add. And that's my recommendation, is just to go through it like chapter by chapter.
So you're just gonna, it'll be similar to the,
Yeah,
this process where he comes
Mm-hmm.
ready with red lines and you just walk through them
right.
meeting by meeting. How is, did our work plan, I don't know if you have that handy, but, where are we gonna weave in public engagement of that?
There should have been an APG, which I've not looked at the contract.
Sorry, I didn't mean to got you there and I don't even have my.
I didn't
laptop
figure
in
get
front
this
of me.
far tonight.
Yeah, I didn't either, but
So I'll have to look at the contracts, but I'm assuming that there's a requirement for public forums.
yes, I think we had at
and-
least 2 public forums baked into the.
Yeah, so
application.
we'll need to plan those out. Public forums are not hearings. They don't have all the same notice requirements that you have when it comes to a hearing. Public forum is just a really time just dedicated to just taking general feedback from the public. or
And forums can
specific
be fun.
feedback.
Unlike hearings.
Forums?
Forums can be fun. Yeah, you can have food, you can
Could have
have
food.
interactive elements. It doesn't have to be a whole,
Mm-hmm,
formal occasion.
Yeah.
yeah. I think
Um,
Wendy would like a forum.
Well, I just need to know when I can talk.
It sounds like it gets a little more loosey-goosey there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the classic planner things are like putting up big maps and having people put push pins or, sticky notes and stuff on them and, or marking things up, drawing on paper or, doing little straw polls and things like that. So.
Yeah, and of course, taking feedback from the public at the meetings, taking feedback from really any person in the town who would have feedback that you would want to solicit. You might talk to the highway department, you might talk to the town manager, especially when it comes to utilities and facilities and such.
Mhm.
So you can reach out to them,
Mhm.
invite them to come to a meeting.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd like to do next month when we start with some red lines. Hopefully everyone will have at least done like kind of it's not that thick. A cursory read of the plan so we all know. And if we could then come together and draft a schedule
Mhm.
so that we could maybe reach out and invite special guests for particular chapters. To have a little more expertise in that realm, an energy person, like you were saying, facilities. Maybe Matt Powers or someone can come for the history chapter, like just but like with enough warning, I think it'd be nice to kind of map out at least our goal. Targets, with kind of milestones.
Nice.
Build in a few milestones. I think that's where things kind of went off the rails with this one a bit, or just we fell behind because I don't feel like we had like some firm check-in points.
Be nice to know what like the goal is. Like, I think
Yeah.
like when we started with the bylaw edits, okay, it was like housing and, readability, like those are our 2 goals. And then,
Yeah, we got bogged down in
Yeah,
fines.
Right.
like, so the goal of it, and I look at this and I'm like, this looks like way too long.
Mhm.
And I wonder if there's like, is a recommendation what is the goal of the town plan? Like, okay, there's a few very legal things that we want to make sure and there's, make sure, but like, I see like a description of the Windsor County Courthouse, a description of utility lines, like, like all that stuff, like if it doesn't provide a purpose,
Right.
like what is it doing in the plan, in my mind, like.
It would be good to, sorry. go ahead.
Oh, well, some of that is under the utility facilities element in state statute. You're supposed to talk about that stuff,
Okay.
even if you don't have any like recommendations or
Yeah,
policies around them, just.
It is, you'll find that
It's
town
funny.
plans are more paint by numbers because we have to use the approval rubric from us and from state statute.
Gotcha.
You have to talk about X, Y, Z and so on. Like there really are many, like that thing, he wasn't kidding. You have to talk about value added forest products somewhere in
Yes.
there. Even if like Woodstock's not a big logging community, like you have
Yeah.
to talk about it.
Mhm.
Or it doesn't get approved. It's kind of silly, but so we have to kind of work backwards from some of those things, which is fine. You just have to give it lip service at the very least, but
Is there a place where those like requirements are published in like a single location, or is it like a all over the place kind of
It's-
thing?
An element's not necessarily like a chapter, like the energy chapter could talk about transportation, could talk about land use as well. It probably will.
yeah, the organization is actually kind of wide open. You don't have to
Okay.
have a chapter for every element. You can,
It would
You
just be
can
nice to
organize
kind
a
of
schematic
know,
on it
like,
if you
if
want.
there's certain points that we have to hit.
Yeah.
Just having a list of, a checklist, basically, to
Yeah,
make
there,
sure.
there,
that it's
there
all-
is, there is an adoption checklist.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I can send that to everyone. so
That'd
you
be
can See
helpful.
what you have to have.
yeah.
But to Ben's point, I think, yeah, something you might want to do going in, because we can kind of set the goals based around what the MPD application was, which I wrote, which was basically address your terrible future land use chapter and map, and put the plan on a diet, basically,
Mhm.
cut a lot of stuff out, make it more readable and more usable. But broader than that, maybe at the beginning, you want to like set like a vision statement or something like that. Where do you want Woodstock to be in 8 years, and what does it look like? And then you have something to work with, and you can check as you go through each chapter. You say, is what we've drawn up here getting us closer to that vision? Like a yardstick, basically. And then you can also like a mission statement almost, and you can have people react to that in the public forums or in surveys or whatever. Like, do you agree with this? Where would you differ?
Mhm.
In 8 years, we want Woodstock to have modest population growth and new housing in the East End and blah, 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 like specific if possible,
Mhm.
not just, we want Woodstock to be a safe and healthy community for everyone,
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you might want to do an exercise like that
Mhm.
at some point.
agreed.
Are there certain things that we have to take into account in the regional plan, and the regional land use map, future land use map, that should marry each other, or at least
So,
refer to?
so yeah, you definitely want to seek regional plan approval. To do that, you have to have your municipal plan, when adopted, has to be compatible with the land use, generally the land use policies and the land use map of the regional plan. Compatible means it does not conflict with.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean it's exactly the same. It's just can't
Right.
really have conflict with what the policy is or what the future land use areas are inside of the regional plan for the town of Woodstock.
Basically, it can't openly contradict like a statement of policy that we have in our thing. So one very specific thing that has come up before is like the thing I mentioned before of like, we don't allow principal retail in this thing. That was a real example that in our regional map, we had an area of Bradford that we had a statement of policy. We said no principal retail in this future land use area. And
Principal retail is like big box retail. right?
yes, yeah, like big box retail or like a Dollar General
Or
something
even like
that.
small, like walking in and buying something off the shelf and leaving.
Oh, so even like just an Ace or a grocery store?
Unless we had
It may have had
size
additional
restrictions,
conditions
yeah.
on it, but it was one specific area of town. And anyway, their future land use map that they submitted to us for approval did not allow for it, basically. It said we allow a mix of all commercial uses and whatever, and we had to go back to them and revise that, basically. So that's like it probably won't come up in Woodstock, to be honest, but there may be small instances of stuff like that, but that's what you have Brian for. We will be checking for those things ahead of time, so you will sail right through regional approval once we get there.
All right.
Cool. Any more questions?
What should we be doing for next meeting? Is there homework?
I think we need to just read this and make notes. And it can be, kind of more of a general read and general notes. I'm sure once we get the red lines, then we'll dig in
Yeah.
deeper. But, the things that you're going to suggest, notice or not what needed to be is not necessarily what we're going to notice or what sticks out to us. So I think that first round will really be us bringing what we want to change, you bringing what you see needing to be changed, and then that starts the conversation.
Yeah,
And I think that'll also help us to understand the projected pacing of reviews. We'll see which chapters aren't very controversial and, we can cluster those together. We don't even have to go through it in order. If we see like
No, you don't.
3, uncontroversial chapters, we can decide to address those all in one meeting just to get them out of the way or something. I don't know. I'm making things up, but I think that initial reread will help us be able to plan the next year.
Yeah, and you can always send me edits you want in that first redlined version. I don't mind incorporating those.
Yeah. So yeah, everyone when we do that, so we're not supposed to have conversations about what we're doing outside of our warned public meetings, right?
Right.
So
yeah,
we
don't
shouldn't
have-
be conversing about what we're going to talk about. But is it reasonable to, if we want to send you the notes in the red lines, to CC everyone, so at least we're aware of them, or maybe we're
Yeah.
already saying the
Yeah,
same thing?
That's fine.
Just,
You can
we
always
don't
send-
have conversation, but we all just know kind of where
Yep.
everyone is.
Right.
You can always send written comments,
Okay.
just the same way
All right.
anyone can.
I
submit
just
a
wanted to be
written
clear
comment.
about
Yeah,
like the
yeah.
level, and especially like with Kate just joining, like kind
Yeah.
of the level of communication that can happen within email versus in the public meetings, active meetings.
Sure.
Yeah.
It
So,
definitely-
and certainly if there's like background information, I think that's fair game.
Yeah, a
Just like
suggested
context,
reading, totally
like,
fine. Yeah,
I'm not following this, where is this coming from? Like, but if we're really talking about changes we want made, that needs to happen in this
Yep.
meeting with the recording where anyone can listen to.
Yep.
Yeah, you really don't want to have you don't want to have the meeting over email,
Right.
but you can say, oh, at the next meeting, I'm going to bring this up.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we can be
And then do
thinking
it
about it,
at the
and
next
then we
meeting.
can respond, I think, more effectively than it just like springing
Right,
on
right,
us. And we're like, oh gosh, I need to think about that. Let me get back to you in a month.
So you'd like us to CC everybody
Yes.
and include Brian, Molly, Emily?
Mhm.
Do we include Stephanie? Do we include Harry? You're out of this?
Yeah, Mike.
Okay, you're out of it. Stephanie, like, are you- Well, you're still, like, are we, okay, I just want to clarify,
Yeah.
like, if we're doing that, yeah, do it to
Mhm.
everybody. Okay.
I am so.
Can I just confirm too?
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
The town plan is on the the Twin Rivers Regional Commission website, and it's the May 2023, all those documents, right?
Correct.
Yes, yeah, okay,
Um,
cool.
I believe it's also on the town website, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Hi, it's Lisa. Way
Yes,
up and
hi.
I can't get my camper. Hi. Before you do the reply all, there are some regulations in open meeting about how you can reply all. So I think that Emily needs to speak to the town manager and make sure we're doing it correctly before we do that.
Okay.
So I'll talk to Emily and we'll work from there.
Sounds good.
Sorry, state law, I'm sorry.
No, it's good.
always good to remind people of,
Mhm.
How does, does this get adopted? Is it the same kind of like the bylaws is it
Mhm.
the trustees in the select board are signing off on this, or just the select board, or
In this
both
case,
can?
Yeah, in this case, there's 2 legislative bodies to sign off on it. What I would recommend, I don't know if it'll happen, would be that when it gets to that stage, after you've had the planning commission hearing and you voted to transmit a copy of the town plan over to both bodies, that they would hold a joint hearing.
Okay.
They
I
do
think they-
occasional joint meetings anyway, right?
Yeah, having a joint hearing, and they might even have to have 2 because there's more than 2,500 people in the town of Woodstock.
Oh, right.
Mhm.
Yeah. That is one slight difference with town plan.
So they'll have to have 2 hearings.
Okay.
I recommend they do it as a joint body, and then afterward, probably have a joint meeting to talk about adopting it.
Mhm.
Would be my recommendation. And the same, if they have substantial changes they're gonna make to it. It'd be better that they do it before that first hearing and then before the second hearing.
And
Otherwise, they'd have to do a 3rd hearing.
sorry, that conversation to vote is separate from those hearings. You couldn't vote at.
You can't do it at a hearing.
Okay, thank you.
They could do it at a special meeting, special joint meeting though. Following like the final hearing is fine, but yeah, towards the hearing. and then proceed into a meeting.
Yeah. Which is really just a matter of warning it and then making sure you say, we are now closing the hearing when you're there.
Yeah, you can never take action at a hearing. But you can do it at the next meeting afterward, which could be 2 minutes after the close of the hearing.
All right. Well, I think we have lots of exciting reading to do. Do we have any other business for tonight?
I'm assuming we should table this for,
Yes,
yeah.
I think
okay.
so. Yeah,
I had a little presentation on 1 in 10 acre towns that we can
Yeah.
save for
we can save that.
next time.
Excellent.
I have one comment.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of the trustees for moving forward. We will be here to support you in any way we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We got a new member. Hi, Vivian. All right. So with that, I move to adjourn, or I adjourn this meeting. I always forget that we don't have to move.
Good parade.
All right. Thank you.